Good evening, Lizzie boys, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk about this new Draculaura variant that has recently been found. So as you guys know, the G3 dolls have looked the same so far. They've all featured the same screenings, and there's been little to no variation between the way they actually look. We've sort of had makeup variations with slightly different lip colors and a bit more dramatic of eyeshadow between some of the dolls. Case in point, like, Creep Over Party Claudine has pretty nice eye makeup, I would say. It's definitely, like, there's more makeup there than there is on her basic doll, for example. But those have just been, like, makeup changes. This is a whole different variant produced in a different factory. If you guys don't remember from G1, sometimes you would find a doll and that doll would just look different. And you would wonder, I wonder why this doll looks different. That's because that doll was either produced in a different factory than the standard variant that you're used to seeing was, or that's actually all it could be. So Mattel has two factories, one in China and one in Indonesia, and sometimes, I guess, one of them just ends up popping out a different variant than the one that we're used to. So in this video, I kind of wanted to talk more in depth about variants, but also show this new Draculaura, so let's get into it. So this is the post that started it all, a tweet from Twitter user Dolls4Eva. That was fun to say. It says, "Guys, look what my friend found at her Target, she looks so good." And basically, this Draculaura features a very different face than the one that we're used to G3 Draculaura having. This is a side-by-side comparison of the two, and I'd say the differences are pretty obvious. For instance, the eyes seem to be larger. My girlfriend, when I showed the variant to her, said that it looked like the purple in her eyes was a lot less prominent, because the standard variant of Draculaura does have more purple in her eyes, and I didn't even notice that until she pointed it out, so that's fun. The main details that's different to me, honestly, the main thing that sticks out to me is the eyelashes. This variant of Draculaura, this new variant, has very prominent eyelashes compared to the other dolls. Not that the other doll, like the standard variant, I'm just gonna have to like clarify which doll is with, so I stop confusing myself. Okay, one second. So this Draculaura variant was produced in Indonesia. This was found on the back of her box. I unfortunately don't have the screenshot, but on the back of this doll's box it says that she was produced in Indonesia, meaning that this face variant comes from there. Meanwhile, the standard Draculaura face we're used to has been coming from China. So this is the China variant and this is the Indonesia variant. This is pretty common from Mattel, with Monster High specifically. I can actually name another example with which this has happened. When she released, Basic Abby ended up having two face variants. Both of these screenings would be used on her interchangeably, and both of them come from different places, obviously. This face variant is the Chinese variant, and this one is the Indonesian variant. Personally, the Abby that I have in my collection is the Indonesian variant. I actually didn't even know about variants back when I bought my Abby, mostly because I was like 14 maybe? I don't know, I didn't care about this stuff that much. But nowadays I have more of an appreciation for it. I think it's cool. I personally own the Indonesian variant, as I mentioned, but I would really like to get the China variant. As you can see, the faces both look like Abby, but have a pretty significant difference between them. I think it's cool, and that's exactly what happened here with this Draculaura. The Indonesian factory just produced a different face for her than the China factory has been producing. I don't know if there's like a lack of communication or something which causes this to happen. I don't know if they just do it on purpose, but either way, it's interesting to me. I like it. I think it looks pretty cool, actually. I don't know. I really like this new variant, and I would like to find her. I'd like to get her, because if I'm being honest, I kind of prefer it to the China variant. China Draculaura definitely isn't ugly. The doll still looks very pretty, and I love her face. But this new variant, I just really like the way they did her eyelashes. Plus, she looks so cute. I don't know. They both have very prominent hearts in their eyes, but I feel like it's even more prominent on this doll, which just gives her such an adorable look in my opinion. Facial variance between dolls is actually a lot more common than you might think, and that's why I wanted to address this in this video, because it's a very interesting subject to me, so I just kind of wanted to talk about it a bit more in depth. Of course, the Draculaura thing's very interesting. I have seen this photo, but there's also other photos of the variant floating around on different dolls. This one's a little wonky looking, and so is this one, but they're both pretty cute. I do like seeing this new face on her, but I'd say that this original picture we saw definitely has the best screening that we've seen so far. I don't know if wonky Indonesian variants are going to become common, but hopefully not, because I want to find a good one. Either way, it's really fascinating to see that we're going to be getting those sorts of variations between screenings in this new generation, because in G2 that was absent. We didn't have any, like, screening variants based on the factory it came from. So it's cool to see that make a comeback. But, as I mentioned, I do want to talk about other examples of face variants, both from Mattel and other other companies. I'm so good at talking, so let's do that. Another brand that had a lot of variants back in its day was Bratz. It could be something as simple as an eye color change, and I do mean just an eye color change. The dolls will be completely identical, but then have a different eye color for next to no reason, but it was pretty cool. And other times, it could be something much more drastic, such as the infamous Earth Girl Yasmin variant. So this is how the standard Earth Girl Yasmin doll would look, and this is how the variant would look. She just has a wildly different screening, and this doll doesn't seem to be all that common, making her very, very, very expensive online. She's definitely a gorgeous doll, and while the original doll is cute as well, she does actually share the exact same face as Dresden. You know, the really expensive Passion for Fashion doll. It's pretty interesting. They have basically the same face, but Earth Girl Yasmin has a bunch of freckles, whereas Dresden just has one beauty mark on her cheek. This face is pretty unique. I don't think many dolls used this screening. I'm pretty sure the only doll I recognize it from is maybe Flashback Fever Sasha. I think some of my favorite Bratz face variants, though, are just the minor changes like this. I don't know, they're interesting to me. It makes you wonder, like, why? Another example of a screening difference, or rather variant, between Bratz dolls is this Kickin' Karate Roxy. As you can see, the doll on the left features basically less thick eyeliner as well as a deeper purple eye color, whereas the doll on the right has much thicker eyeliner and a lighter eye color. I'm actually not sure why this variant exists, it's just super random. Maybe the one on the left is supposed to be a fixed version of the one on the right. Only the designers at MGA know. But if we'd like to get back on the topic of Mattel variants, there are several more that we could talk about. First up, we have this Draculaura comparison. So, from the post that I'm reading that's on Flickr, the first doll, which is the doll on the left, is the original release of Draculaura from 2010, whereas the doll on the right, who is considered a reissue in this post, is from China. So, the doll on the right has the China face variant, and the doll on the left most likely has an Indonesian face. I have to say, once again, China wins, because this doll looks really good. Another infamous face variant is Haunted Spectra. The one on the right was pretty much only released in the US, that's the only version people could find here, whereas the doll on the left is much more desired because she was only released outside the US. She also has just a much prettier face. Her makeup is much darker and reaches her eyebrows, and her eyebrows are lowered than the doll on the right. I'm going to call the doll on the right the American version and the doll on the left the European version. The European version also just has much larger lips and looks better overall. Personally, I was only able to find the American version because, duh, I live in America. But I would do anything to own the European version just because she's so much prettier. This variant of Skull Shore's Draculaura is pretty interesting because the doll on the right, she has a pink stripe on her cap, so that's how you know which doll I'm referring to, was only released as part of the 5-pack. The doll on the left, without the pink stripe on her little cap, was the solo release Draculaura. Because as you know, they did reissue this Draculaura as a part of a 5-pack, which featured 3 exclusive dolls, those 3 dolls being Cleo, Frankie, and of course Claudine. So Draculaura had a solo release, and her solo release is the doll on the left, as I just said. They featured different hands, as you can see. The doll on the left features the standard resting hand pose, whereas the doll on the right, with the pink stripe on her cap and the different screening, she features the, I call that hand the pointing hand because she's got like her fingers sticking out and the other fingers are like curled inward. That's just how I refer to it, but those are the differences between the dolls. It's pretty interesting. I do own both variants of these and it's pretty cool. This one is actually a hair variant, which used to happen sometimes with Monster High. So this is Dance Class Operetta. The doll on the left with the curly hair was the one featured in the 5-pack, whereas the doll on the right with the straight hair was the one featured in her solo release. Similar to what happened with the Skull Shores dolls, this pack was made to add a new doll, which was Gil as well as Rochelle. So they used 3 existing dolls to pad it out, including Operetta, Rebecca, and Laguna. Rebecca and Operetta both had curly hair in the 5-pack, but on their solo releases, it was more common to find them with straight hair. I've had some people say that they found the solo releases with curly hair, but personally, I had a solo release Rebecca, and she had straight hair. But when I got the 5-pack, that one had curly hair. So, I don't know. But there was a hair variant out there, which is kind of fun. I feel like we've gotten a bit off track with Draculaura because this is what we were supposed to be talking about, but face variants are just really interesting to me. It's fun to talk about. I just like doing it. Like, both Mattel and Bratz, because I don't know if any other MGA lines have ever had, like, face variants. I guess Rainbow High occasionally does. Sometimes you'll find one that has a darker lip color or one that has a lighter lip color, and that's kind of the extent of the variants most of the time. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll make a more in-depth video on variants, but for now, I think it's cool that we're going to most likely be getting more variants out of G3. This Draculaura is amazing, so I'm looking forward to seeing what else Indonesia does.